Thanks, everyone, for joining yet another DABCC Live webinar. As always, I'm extremely excited about today because we have the folks from PhD Virtual on the line with us, and they're going to show you all the neat and new stuff that they have with the PhD Virtual Backup and Replication v6.2, and especially featuring something they call CloudHook. So I'm quite excited about this. We also have James West on the line. So, and James is, well, I'll let him introduce himself. So, James, thanks for taking the time to do this with us. And I'm definitely excited. So before we get started, can you just introduce yourself to the audience out there and let them know who you are?
Thanks for the intro. Again, for everyone on the line, my name is James West. I'm from PhD Virtual. I am the SE manager here at PhD Virtual for the pre-sales SE team. I manage the other SEs here at PhD Virtual, so I get involved with all our prospective customers, assisting with evaluations, involving myself with webinars such as this. So I'm one of the technical resources here at PhD Virtual. Prior to PhD Virtual, I was an actual sysadmin myself, so I'm pretty familiar with VMware, BCP certified, Windows, AD Exchange, so I have a pretty good background in the IT space in general.
That's great. That's great. So let's get this ball rolling. Sound good?
Works for me.
Okie dokie. And again, guys, as we go through this, James is going to do a little bit of PowerPoint. We're going to get into some demos also, but please ask as many questions as you want. That's what's special about the webinar, is that you guys get to ask these questions directly to an expert. So with on the little sidebar on the right, or wherever you might have it on your screen, there's a questions piece of GoToWebinar, and just go ahead and type in your question. I will receive those, and then in return I will ask those over to James. Of course, we'll stick around at the very end of the webinar too, and answer all your questions. So don't forget, feel free to be part of this. We love it. Okay, James, it's all yours.
Thanks, Doug. So everyone, as Doug pointed out, I will cover a couple slides. I promise you I won't bore you with a full PowerPoint for the entire presentation, but marketing gets mad at me if I don't do these. We'll spend the meat of today's presentation in the demo so you can actually see a live representation of the product and what it looks like. Slide-wise, what I want to cover for you is give you a little background on PhD Virtual as a company and what we offer solution-wise. I'll give you a quick overview of the backup products in general, and then I'll discuss specifically what CloudHook is and what it will provide you with, and then I'll jump into our actual live environment to show you what it looks like feature-wise if you actually deploy the software into your environment. With that, go ahead and get started. So who are we at PhD Virtual? What do we offer our customers? So what it comes down to, we offer a purpose-built virtual backup solution, which covers VMware vSphere and Citrix Xen Server. We got started back in 2006 with a VMware product, and then in 2010, Citrix approached us to also develop a product for their Xen Server hypervisor. But today we support those two hypervisor platforms. We will expand that later on this year to also include Hyper-V. So we'll provide support for the big three hypervisors. We also have a monitoring product that not only covers the virtual space, but can also monitor physical. The physical being physical servers, network switches, routers, things of that nature. And one thing that's not on this slide that's very exciting here at PhD Virtual, we just officially came out with an announcement Tuesday of this week. We acquired a company called Virtual Sharp. Virtual Sharp has a disaster recovery product called Reliable DR. This is going to be a nice coupling with our software by providing DR assurance for virtual environments. So some of you may not have heard of this product. It would be comparable to VMware's SRM or Zerto, if you've heard of those two before. It matches those types of platforms and can go above and beyond what they're going to be able to offer by providing a lot of DR assurance requirements to validate DR plans, testing, things of that nature. So I want to point that out. Make sure everyone is aware of that. We have gone through an acquisition of the Virtual Sharp and the Reliable DR products. Now, history-wise, here at PhD Virtual, we've experienced for the past 12 consecutive quarters have all been record setters for us. So we're very successful here at PhD Virtual, and we fully expect that to continue here in the future. At the bottom there, you'll see a couple lists of some of the rewards we've received over the years. And on the right gives you a quick hit list of some of the customers we support. I'm sure some of you are familiar with some of those, but we support customers, small, medium, or large, doesn't matter, any organization of any size is able to find value in what we offer product-wise. I'm going to jump into the actual backup product and the architecture. It's a good idea to understand exactly how the product is deployed. Now, what we use is a virtual appliance for VMware or Zen server. And why this is important, if you look in the bottom half, is a lot of vendors take the traditional approach of deploying on top of Windows or their physical, right? So that adds to the complexity and the cost of the software. The Windows itself, you got to license it, you got to install it, you got to manage it, you got to patch it. And that sets aside itself of managing the backup software itself. With us, we're simply a virtual appliance. We give you everything you need assembled in the virtual appliance. We simply give you a GUI plugin to show you the demo of how to actually manage the software. So essentially what it is a virtual machine that backs up other VMs. Why not leverage the existing virtual environment to protect the virtual environment? That's the approach we went with the backup product. Again, there's no third-party hardware requirements. Just give us a backup target, now being cloud, and we can send the backup data to it. So what is PC Virtual's CloudHook offering? Now, CloudHook is a separately licensed feature within our virtual appliance. So it's an annual prescription. If you want to license this and go to the cloud, you can do this. Now, why is this important? Why should you use CloudHook with PHP Virtual? And there's a number of things that can help make more efficient when it comes to handling your backups and recovery. One of those, which I know from personal experience, is tape. Right? If you want offsite protection, get away from tape. CloudHook's an ideal option for you. Right? So if you need offsite protection, if you don't have a DR site, for example, this is going to provide you with the flexibility to provide those types of requirements and decreasing the overall headache of having to manage other solutions that provide offsite types of features. At the end of the day, if you're admin for engineers out there, how much time do you want to be spending on managing backups? Not a whole lot. I'm sure you got a lot of things on your plate that require a little more attention. And at the end of the day, we want to make sure we can focus your time on the responsibilities that require that attention. So where does CloudHook fit? And we'll be the first to admit to everybody that this is not something we deem to be a one-size-fits-all type offering. It will have certain requirements that will ensure that it works in the best manner in the environment. Now, when we talk about the amount of data that should be pushed to the cloud with CloudHook, we estimate that to be between 1 to 5 terabytes. Well, obviously, if you're a small shop, you probably fit within that window, but if you're a large enterprise shop, that may not fit. However, you might have a subset of data that's deemed mission critical that you want to provide additional protection for. Maybe that falls within the 1 to 5 terabytes window. If you have a couple of VMs that are absolutely you can't do without, and you want to add some additional redundancy to how you protect them, you can also leverage CloudHook for those types of systems. Like I said, if you want to get away from tape or any type of removable media, CloudHook is a nice option for that. Again, it provides the offsite protection. If you lose the main data center, you have the data available in the cloud to recover from it. Now, for any of you MSPs or cloud providers out there, this is also an attractive option if you want to offer backup and DR services as part of your offerings to your customers. What we can do is actually leverage OpenStack or the object storage component of OpenStack, which is Swift. You can present that out, and we can actually back that up to your data center from your customers' environments. This has a number of use cases that can be applied, again, for local businesses that want to provide their own backup services or MSPs and cloud providers who are also looking to expand their offerings to their customers. Now, when you talk about recovery from the cloud, what can you actually recover within CloudHook? You can still recover a full virtual machine from any of our supported backup providers. Now, the options you have available to you are traditional and rollback. Traditional is just a rebuild of the entire virtual machine if it happens to be deleted or might be corrupted for any reason. Rollback is a situation where we'll take the production machine, apply incremental changes to the virtual machine to reduce the overall recovery time, and it allows you to maintain the production VM in all of its settings. We just simply roll back the virtual disk. And then if you want, we can go a little deeper and recover at the file or application level or even emails if you need to. Now, what does this mean for hybrid type storage? right? And then we always recommend that you have on-premise or local backups for speedy recoveries. What CloudHook does is add additional redundancy should you lose the entire data center. Because obviously, you want to plan for that. It's unlikely, but at the same time, IT needs to plan for that because let's be honest, businesses today can't function without IT. If you lose a data center, most likely your business is going under. So you want that additional redundancy. And then last slide here, before we jump into the demo, is we want to get this into the hands of our customers. This is being our first push into the cloud. And through the end of the month, we are offering 2 promotions. Should anyone want to take a look and actually purchase the CloudHook. So for existing customers, we are offering CloudHook at 50% off for the first year. So for any of you on the line today who are a customer of PC Virtual, we are offering this at a discount of 50% off. And then promotion number 2 is any net new customers who want to license CloudHook. We are offering all hosts a free license of CloudHook for the first year. Now, you still have to pay for the actual backup license, but if you want to license it for CloudHook as well, you can get that for free for the first year. And we want to get this into the hands of customers. We want to see them use or realize the value of CloudHook to provide the offsite protection and also increase the flexibility of the business when it comes to how they protect their data. So with that, at this point, what I'm going to do is go ahead and jump into the demo.
Perfect.
And I'll show you exactly how this looks in a live environment.
Perfect. Hey, James, I do have a couple questions for you I want to get to just real quick. And,
Sure.
And then guys out there listening, definitely please use the questions piece to go to webinar if you have any questions, and James will answer them just like he's going to do right now. So the first question is, what versions of VMware and Citrix Xen Server hypervisors do you guys support? It's a good question.
Okay. Good question. So with VMware, we support vSphere 4.0, 4.1, 5.0, and 5.1. So the most widely used versions of VMware today, we're going to support. For Xen Server, we go as far back as 5.5 Update 2. We support all the versions of Xen Server 5.6, 6.0, and 6.1. Again, if you're using Xen Server or VMware, most likely you fall within one of those versions, so we're able to support that for you.
Great. Okay, one more question here. And what's the advantages, disadvantages of Amazon versus Google versus Rackspace? Interesting question.
So let me just share my screen right here in the demo. I'm going to do this a little different. I'm going to kind of work my way backwards. I'm going to highlight the CloudHook, and then I'll go back to the rest of the product. So when you talk about what we support cloud-wise, in our drop-down menu, it's Amazon S3, Google Cloud Storage, OpenStack Swift, and Rackspace Cloud Files. From a best practice or your recommendation standpoint, from our standpoint, it doesn't matter. It's more what is best for the business, whether it's Amazon, Google, Rackspace. We allow you to choose one over the other. From our standpoint, we don't care. We work the same with all providers. It's more of a business decision that might be a better decision, but from PhD standpoint, we don't necessarily care which one you decide to go with. We'll work the same regardless.
Sounds good. And we have one more question before I'll let you get started with the demo. And that is, does the local appliance act as a backup device as well?
So I'm not sure I quite understand that question, but I think what's being asked is if we can back up to our appliance, and the answer to that would be no. So the appliance is what reads the data, deduces it, compresses it, and then you identify. So you see here in the demo, this is the storage targets we support for each appliance. Now, a local target would be an attached disk. Remember, it's still a virtual machine, or we can go to NFS or SIFs. Now, obviously, what we still recommend is you want to have, as I said before, on-premise and local backups for speedy recoveries. The cloud option is ideal for entire site loss, or maybe if you lose a SAN or your actual backup storage for that additional protection.
Yeah.
But I hope that answered the question. If it doesn't, please go ahead and chime back in and let me know if I did or didn't answer that question for you.
He just said he did, and thanks. So good
Okay.
job, James. Okay, on with the demo. And again, guys, just as we just did, we'll interrupt and ask questions. So please feel free. James, it's all yours.
So, like I said, I'm going to work a little differently than I normally do with demos. I'm going to jump right into CloudHook here, show you what that looks like, and then I'll circle back and go through the rest of the product here. So CloudHook is the expansion of our backup storage list. And I see in our lab we have one of our appliances for VMware back up to a Rackspace. Now, all I did was just create a Rackspace account. And to give you an idea of how this works, the information you put in here. So the storage path is a container you create in your Rackspace account. You specify the name of that. Now, Amazon calls it buckets, and so does, I believe it's Google also calls them buckets. Rackspace calls it a container, I believe. So from an S standpoint, it doesn't matter. You still create a container or a bucket that you specify here, and then you'll specify in our console what the name of that bucket container is. One thing you'll also dictate is a file prefix. That prefix, all it does is every file we write to the cloud account, you'll have that prefix for all files, so you know what's created by PhD and what might be a third-party type file. The username for cloud files is linked to your actual username for your Rackspace account, and the API key is generated from Rackspace as well. So that information you would get from your Rackspace account. Now, one thing that's obviously important around going to the cloud is security. That's obviously a big concern because now your data is being taken out of your hands into a third party. So we will make it mandatory for you to impose encryption for all the data we send out to the cloud. This passphrase you set here is simply set by you as an admin. You can make up whatever passphrase you want. Just be aware, if you lose this passphrase, you cannot recover the data. So it's very important that you document what this passphrase is and you don't lose that. We want to make sure this data is secure as it traverses the internet and gets to the actual cloud provider. And you see here, depending upon the actual platform you pick, it'll change the values given how the actual provider dictates their account. You see with Amazon, there's the access key, there's the key ID. Again, we'll change depending upon the provider which one you use. So Google also uses what's called a developer access key and a developer secret, which you would get from your Google account. One thing I also want to mention is here, I'm going to be showing this to you in VMware. That's obviously the most widely used hypervisor, but if you happen to have XenServer out there, what I'm showing you will look identical. There's not a lot of changes across those platforms. It's a pretty good mirror of what I'm showing you here. So what happens is when you set the information, it'll go ahead and mount that information, and you can go ahead and configure your backup jobs. Now you'll see in our lab we have more than one appliance here. We have 3 appliances that act as our local backups, and then we have one you see v-dr, which is going to our cloud account. So how this would work is you would have appliances dedicated to doing local backups, and then you would have a minimum of 1 appliance dedicated to doing cloud backups. As I mentioned before, you want to have those on-premise backups to provide speedy recoveries. Again, the cloud option provides protection in case you lose the backup storage, you lose the hypervisor environment, VMware Citrix, or if you lose the entire site, which hopefully doesn't happen to you. So other than that, this is the expansion of, so this is what CloudHook is. CloudHook is the expansion of our backup storage list. Again, this is licensed on a yearly basis, an annual subscription. So you just pay the host fee, per number of hosts, the CloudHook option. And one thing we also don't do for you is we don't lock you into these providers. So let's say you start out with Amazon, and after the first year realize maybe I want to go to Google. We allow you to transfer those licenses over should you change cloud providers. We don't lock you into a provider should you decide to change that. So just be aware of that.
Hey, James, I have a good question here.
Sure.
So and the question goes, can I only use the 3 providers, or can my company offer, BAAS, backup as a service, to our own data center?
So today, our offering is limited to this, what you're currently seeing. Now, what you could do is if you want to provide your own built-in services, OpenStack would be a nice option for that. OpenStack, if you're not too familiar with it, is a open source cloud management system. A comparable product would be CloudStack, or vCloudStack's kind of the same model, but not quite. We actually have a current customer of ours who's actually looking to use OpenStack and provide Swift as the internal backup target for this. They could use CloudHook in that fashion. Now, obviously, down the road we will expand this list, but today with the initial release of CloudHook, it only includes these 4 targets.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Any other questions?
That's it for now? I have a few more, but we'll wait. Please continue.
Okay. So what I want to do now is kind of circle back and go through the rest of the product as I normally do. So I'm going to give you a good idea of everything this solution can do for you when it comes to backup, recovery, or replicate. Let me just minimize our console here. Now, as I mentioned, we deploy as a virtual appliance. It comes in OVF for VMware or an XVA for Citrix. You'll see here in our lab, PCVBA v1, v2, v3, and v-dr are actual instances of our appliance. And we don't license per number of these. So we simply license for VMware per socket and then for Xen servers per host. The number in which you decide to deploy VBAs is completely up to you. You see in our environment we have 2 hosts with each 1 socket, so that would just require 2 of our licenses. You could have 3 VBAs, you could have 10 if you wanted to. That number is up to you to decide what you want to use. Again, that's nice because as you grow, we allow you to scale with no additional cost to accommodate additional VMs you might add to the environment. Now, how do you manage all the software? As you saw before at the pop-up, we have a console which acts as a plugin within the vSphere client or Xen Center for Citrix. You can right-click any host, any virtual machine, and it will expose our menu options from here now. So from here, I can kick off any 3 wizards: backup, recovery, replicate, or go into the console. So the console is what I had open. So when you hit console, that pops up for you, and it'll take you to the dashboard section. The dashboard section is what lists out for you all the discovered VBAs in the environment, and then for each, all the information that that particular appliance is protecting for you, how much is available, your unit ratios, etc. And you'll see here for the 1 VBA that's going to the cloud, you notice for free storage it says unlimited. Why is that unlimited? Because cloud storage essentially is unlimited. You're allowed to grow as you need with Amazon, Google Rackspace, or OpenStack. So just be aware of that. Why it says unlimited is because there's no limits when you use a cloud storage target. Now, going to the config, one of the things you'll find with our software is you probably won't find anything you'll be able to install as quick as ours. I actually did, a couple of weeks ago, a Citrix webinar which talked about the actual installation. And I actually timed it live. I had a public timer. I installed the software from scratch, configured it, ready to do backups in actually less than 4 minutes. So to give you an idea of how easy to use this software is, that's really what we mean. 4 minutes or less for the installation configuration. So at that point, you're ready to configure your backups. Now, when you import an appliance, all we require you to configure are these 3 tabs. So we covered the backup storage. You want to identify where you want to go with the backup data. The first thing you really need to do is identify the IP information for the appliance, IP address, mask, gateway, etc. And then also here in general, you want to identify the hypervisor credentials. So it could be vCenter, it could be your pool master for Xen server, or it could be standalone host. We need some way to talk to and authenticate to the actual hypervisor platforms. Once you configure those first 3 tabs, at that point you can go ahead and kick off and schedule your backups. What you do is come to the job section, or again, you can right-click on a VM or host and select the backup wizard. You'll see here we have a list of jobs that run on a nightly basis for us. Most of these jobs are local-based, but we also have a nightly job that takes some of our VMs and goes to our Amazon account for additional protection. And I can see all my jobs from all the VBAs and identify what's doing what. You see if I can see the next runtime of that particular job. So we start with the backup wizard. Walk you through that. So we'll mirror the view of VMware. So we have the host and clusters view. We also have VMs and templates we can mirror for you. So it helps you organize your backup jobs given how you've organized the actual virtual environment in the hypervisor. So all you simply do is specify what level you want to include VMs for. It can be per data center, per cluster, per host, per resource pool, or individual VMs themselves. Then you'll select the appliance to own the backup, and then your backup mode. So the backup mode is dictated by your storage target for optimization. Virtual full is the mode you would use when going to a cloud account. The virtual full gives you the best flexibility around using our software. It gives you the best dedupe. It is an incremental forever type backup, so you never have to run a full after the first pass, so it helps reduce storage requirements, and you get the most flexible retention using the virtual full mode. Now, we also have a full incremental for, again, like I said, optimization. If you're using CIFS, NFS, or like a target side deduplication storage device like EMC data domain, HTTP, things like that, you want to use that mode in that particular case. Then your options around scheduling. And obviously, you can automate this backup job to run on schedule given what you want to, or how you want to protect the virtual machines in the environment. Your job options, we can do job verification, power up VMs, we can archive backups, and obviously with VMware, we can take advantage of CVT. And then lastly, before you submit the job, is do you want any application awareness to happen? Now, this is especially important for VSS or applications or database platforms. So Exchange Server, Domain Controller, SQL Server, those systems have special needs around backing them up. That's known as the quiesce. Now, if you want to do log authentication for Exchange or any custom scripting, we also can do that, as you'll see here in the menu options. You set that, you hit next, it'll summarize those settings, and you can go ahead and submit the job. Now, what happens, what this looks like, if I was to run one of these backup jobs, just kick off one of them. You can go ahead and start that. So in the bottom right will give you a per VM and per disk status, and in the bottom left it gives you a summary for the entire job as a whole. So very straightforward, very easy to use. Once you set the job, we'll take care of the rest. So it really is set and forget it and get back to doing the more important task of your job. Do we have any questions come up so far?
Yes, we have. Boy, where do I start is always the question, right? So I actually want to start with one of my questions, and this is one I must admit I forgot to ask you when you started the demo. I love it when people, when vendors, they come, you have this demo, everything works, but there took something to get there, right? So can you just explain real briefly, what does it take to actually get your solution up and running to the point where, you're demoing it? Make sense?
Right. So, like I said, the installation is very easy. What I'll do is I have an actual directory. So when you download the software from our website, here's Zen Center. So, give me an idea. Here's the 6.1 directory or download package. It comes in a zip file, so when you extract that, this is what it'll include. Here's our guest tools that can be deployed in the guest OS for application awareness. Here's the OVS. So this is our VBA right here that you will import. Here's our console that you install on your workstation, and here's the exporter tool for converting your backup to an OVS. So how this works is you download this package from our website. Then we open up VMware, vSphere Client, or Zen Center, go File, deploy OVS, and just simply browse the location of where that OVF file exists. And then go ahead and import the appliance. That'll take a minute or so to import, and go ahead and power it on. At that point, what you then go back and do is just run the client installer, which takes literally about 5 seconds to install. Once those two things are done, you just right-click on any VMware host and just select the console option. That'll pop up. And like I said before, what you do is just configure these first 3 tabs: network, your backup storage, and hypervisor credentials, and you're good to go. So doing this for the first time, if you've never seen the software, it probably take maybe 10 minutes, but again, that's a pretty quick installation, given any type of product you might install before. So that's how the process works, from, starting from fresh down the software from our website to getting up and running in the actual VMware or Zen server environment.
Perfect. Easy like 1, 2, 3, as I like to say. So, boy, now we're getting flooded with questions, which is great, guys. Keep them coming. So, okay, first one here, or I guess second one, not directly related to CloudHook, they say, but how does PhD Console plug in? How does PhD Console plugin work with the VMware Web Client interface with vSphere v5.1 and the VIC with vSphere 5.1, the VIC is useless.
Right.
Make sense?
Good question.
It is a good question.
So today, we don't have any way to integrate into the web client. Now, obviously, we realize this is the direction VMware is going into, so we obviously need to support that direction. We are already in the works with our version 7. We're going to be going to a web interface naturally. So with that, it'll provide us an easy way to integrate within VMware, whether it's a landing page or a link that's still up in the air. But so today we don't, but it's already been identified as a priority to have that integration with the web client. So we do have that on the priority list to include that.
Awesome. Okay.
We also...
Oh, please continue. I'm sorry.
Just one thing that integration also includes vCloud Director too. We'll also have that on the list to provide that type of integration for VMware.
Oh, that's excellent. Okay, so next question. What about compression rate and deduplication?
So deduplication is not something where I could say it's going to be 30 to 1 and that's going to apply to everyone, and it's just isn't the case. Deduplication compression is relevant to a customer's environment, their data, their change rate. So what I can say is the average is about 25 to 1. Now, I'll say it's not uncommon for me to work with a lot of customers who definitely see 50 to 1, who see 100 to 1 in some situations. People are very generally happy with the dedupe savings they see with our software. And like I said, when you use the virtual full mode with CloudHook, it gives you the global dedupe. So no matter what virtual machine you back up with that appliance, we deduplicate across the entire backup store. So it allows you to reduce the savings. Now, one thing also is because we're using less storage, is it may also give you the option to increase your retention. So if you're not using dedupe today, and maybe it only allows you to go back, a couple of days or maybe a week, once you throw in our dedupe compression, it can now reduce your storage requirements, and now allows you to go back even further now. So maybe you want to go back a month or even 2 months. That's another advantage you get with the dedupe compression of PhD.
Perfect. How do you upgrade to this version from an older version of PhD? Well, that's a good question.
Right. So, pretty seamless. We simply give you what we call an update file, which is just a .phd file you can download from the website. You simply download that, come to our support tab, upload appliance patch, onto the PhD file, upload that in the appliance, reboot it, and you're up to the latest version. Not much to the upgrade process.
Easy like 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
Okay, so I have two more quick questions, and then I'll let you get back to the demo. So, guys, please keep the questions coming. We love them. Isn't Swift/OpenStack an open standard? If a provider uses this, will it not be compatible?
Right. So it is an open source that we do support. So it would be supported. So Swift is the object storage component of OpenStack. Now, if you're not familiar with object storage, it's a way for cloud providers to prevent out storage from their infrastructure. And then basically all it is doing is placing a web front end in front of the storage. So simply when we go to Google or Cloud Storage or OpenStack, we're simply making in the background HTTP calls to transfer the data. But your question is, it is open source, but it would not affect the running of our software.
Okay, last question. Please also mention the export of OVF and tape option.
Right. So the exporter tool, let me just jump to that real quick, is a Windows-based application. It's a tool we throw in there for people who want to go to tape or removable media. Here's the actual exporter interface. So all you simply do is you specify where it dumps the OVS to and what backup stores it should export from. And then all you simply do is you create and schedule an export job. You pick the VMs you want to export per that schedule. And then you would use your tape solution, Symantec or Tivoli, to sweep across those OVFs to tape if you wanted to do that. Again, if you wanted to do a USB drive, you could just dump into a USB drive and then port that offsite if you needed to. That's the Explorer tool.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, and one more question. I love when they keep coming in. So one more here. I saw your backup speed at 1.5 gigabytes. I am using iSCSI Target mounted at a local storage on Zen server on a 1 gigabyte Ethernet, but seem to be getting around 20 through 25 megabytes. What type of backup storage configuration gives you this 1.5 gigabyte rate? That is a great question.
Right. It's not really what you saw there isn't necessarily a real world speed. It's because really of CBT, and we're not having to read and write a lot of data. We can fly through it. That's one of the things that's advantageous with VMware is CBT. The first pass of a VM might take an hour, given how big it is. But when you throw CBT in the next pass, it could literally take about 2 minutes or even less. That really is why you see that 1.5. What you'll see is if you look at the history of, when we give you an actual email summary report, you can get the actual speeds per disk and per VM and for the entire job. And your job logs are the real true speeds, so we break down for you read, write, hash, compress. Those are the speeds you'll see, and those are the true speeds to give you an idea of how actually fast your backups have been performing with PhD.
Okay, James, I'll let you get back to the demo. So, guys, please keep your questions coming, and we'll take another. I won't call it a break. Well, I will call it a break. We'll take another question break here in a little bit, but let's see some more. So, James, have at it.
Sure. So, I covered the backup piece. Let's talk about the recovery. So, if you come into the backup catalog, this will give you a synchronized view of all the all the backups across all appliances. And if you span each virtual machine, you see all of your available recovery points. Now, this mixes the local backups and the cloud backups. So the two VMs we back up to the cloud happen to be this one and this one. So from a recovery standpoint, it doesn't change. You still have the same recovery options within our interface in the catalog. So if I wanted to recover this virtual machine from the cloud, I'm going to pick this recovery point, take off the wizard. Now I already have the recovery point selected. So here I can dictate how or what type of recovery I want to do. And this is from longest to shortest with your type. So standard is a rebuild of the entire virtual machine from the backup data. So really the length of time it takes is given the size of the virtual machine. And within standard you have the options below. With that you can append a suffix, you can power it on, specify your data store, and specify your virtual network. The next fastest is rollback. Rollback is where the production machine is still in place in VMware Zen server, and we just simply take that VM and we roll it back to a point in time that we backed it up, maybe 2 a.m. in the morning. So with that, we're only applying incremental changes. We're not touching any VM settings. We're just simply rolling back the virtual disk, so recovery time is obviously reduced because of that. And then once we're done, we can power that VM back up to provide a recovery of that system. The last option is instant, which is something we only have for VMware. We don't have this for Zen server just yet, but we allow you to actually power up a VM directly from the backup store. And some people may not have heard this before. What it means is we're not actually recovering data from the backup store. We're simply abstracting the backup format, which is DDoS compressed, from VMware. So we present to VMware in that data store that it sees VMDK files, VMX, and is able to mount and attach that data and bring the VM online for you. The recovery time with instant literally is the time it takes to submit the job and for the VM to boot. So we're reducing recovery time to a matter of minutes now. Why that's nice is if you're doing the business day and a VM goes down, it's mission critical, you need to have it up ASAP. Instant's a nice option for that. 2, it can also be provided for backup verification. So maybe once a month you just want to verify a VM would boot up and recover its application. You can leverage instant in that fashion as well. Boot up the VM, log into it, test the application, verify everything's good. It can be leveraged in that fashion. So it can be leveraged for recovery as well as for backup validation. And this is recovering an entire virtual machine. Now, we are an image-based solution. We back up and protect the entire virtual machine. But let's be honest, most recoveries are just at the file level. You're not recovering virtual machines that often. We can also do that for you. So whether it's Windows, Linux, doesn't matter. For Exchange Server, if I want to pull out some files from here, pick my backup, and then we give you two ways to access the backup data, via a CIF share we present out from the appliance or an ISW target. I'm going to go ahead and need the default apply with CIFs. And here's that UNC path we exposed. I simply highlight that, hit open, and that data is not accessible to me within Windows Explorer. Here's the two disks. Here's my partitions. And then there's the full directory structure. Like I said, most recoveries are done at the file level. We give you immediate access to the data to recover at the file level via this method. Again, it could be Windows, it could be Linux, it doesn't matter. We're able to present this information in this manner. And then lastly is the replication. So the VBAs can do backups, restores, and replication. Now, the replication is done from the backup data. So if I go to configuration and replication for this appliance, you'll see he's mounted the 3 backup stores we're backing up to locally. So he'll mount and attach those. And if I come back to replication, and on the VMs available for replication, you now will view the ones that reside across those backup stores. You can be selective and pick just certain critical VMs you want to replicate, or you can do all of them if you wish. And then go ahead and get off the wizard. With the wizard, you can specify a suffix, pick your data store, and then specify your virtual network. And then you can specify the schedule of how often replication should occur. Now with replication, after that first seed, and that completes, and then the second, third, fourth, and so on, we just simply update your replicas with the changes from the last completed backup. So it's just an incremental update for your replicas. We don't have to reseed the entire virtual machine every time replication runs after that first pass. And then before you submit the job, we will break down all the VMs you selected for replication. So if you want to have or treat some VMs differently, maybe if you want to change their data stores, or if you want to change the network, subject, things like that, you can do so before you submit the job. So you submit that, and then what happens is, so we have a nightly replication job that runs. He replicates these 2 virtual machines. So you're left with a virtual machine powered off in a standby state. Why this is nice is you already have the VMs available to you. If you lose the production machine, production site, you have these VMs available to you to just power on any moment's notice. You can provide an immediate access to your virtual machine should a disaster occur in the environment. And then each time the replication runs, we just simply update them with incremental changes. So we just re-inject the change blocks into the virtual disk to update those replicas. Now, what I just want to conclude here in the demo is as the tools section. So I want to highlight 2 things for you. Why I feel this is important, because having been an admin, anytime I would look at a software, the one thing I always consider is how do I recover it? Should I lose something with it? And the nice thing about our architecture is, even though the appliance is the heart behind our product, it does not present to you a single point of failure. You can think of our appliances as being disposable or throwaways. So let's say you get the software up and running, you got your jobs configured. What you want to do is then export the jobs in the VBA configuration and specify where it should export it to. So you can protect the configuration on a file server somewhere. But should you lose an appliance, for whatever reason, the host goes down, gets deleted, whatever, just simply spin up a new appliance, come here, re-import the settings, reattach them to your backup target, and it literally is as if nothing ever happened to the software. He will continue to run with backups and also still allow you to recover from the existing backups. So the software is very resilient in that aspect. Again, the appliances are not a single point of failure. As long as you have your backup data, you can still recover from it and also continue with the backups. That is a very nice attribute about our software. You look at something like Veeam, for example, and being one of our big competitors. They're Windows-based, and I have to worry about protecting Windows. And obviously, if they're physical, you got to protect physical hardware now. This makes the interaction with our software a lot more pleasant and convenient when you talk about the recoverability of it. And then lastly is a quick, nice little tool we can interrogate vCenter or Zen Server for your virtual environment inventory. You'll see in the top right, total VMs, total disk, and the total environment size, and then in the bottom half giving you a breakdown of all the virtual machines. If you scroll to the right, you can identify the last time you backed it up and by what appliance. So if you want to create a report on this data, you can actually copy this and paste it into Excel, for example, and then manipulate the data in any format you want to do, and then present it to maybe management to get an idea of what's out there in the environment. Now, I like to mention those tools. It makes the kind of day-to-day interaction with the software a lot more convenient, but I like to point those out because I know for me as an admin, there are definitely some worthwhile tools that are good to mention.
Absolutely.
So with that, that concludes our demo. What I want to do is just hand things back over to you. Anthony, any additional questions we might have, and then we can go ahead and wrap up today's presentation.
Well, perfect. Thanks, James, for the demo. And guys out there listening, we have a bunch of questions that we're going to answer real quick, but please feel forward to ask them or ask any you might have, and James can answer them and maybe even show you the answer too. That's what's great about these things. So let's jump to it. So one, do you replicate from production or backup storage, and why?
Good question. We replicate from the actual backup storage. Why we decided to do this is we didn't want to have to touch production machines to do replication, which a lot of other vendors do. You have to do a snap for backups and a snap for replication. This allows you to do replication during the business day if you wanted to, not having to worry about replication affecting your production machines when it comes to performance or availability. So it's done from the backup data, and that's the reason why.
Perfect. And don't forget, guys, use the questions piece. I sound like a broken record. Although, a broken record, I don't like that because I have a broken record and it doesn't repeat itself. It just skips and ruins my needle. So anyway, I digress. But that's my prerogative, right? So anyway, so next question. What does the difference between just using a snapshot and using your backup software? Now, there's big differences.
Right. Yeah, so I every now and then I get a lot of customers asking me from Zen Server for some reason. They say, I'm using Snapshots. Why would I need your software? And because Zen Server offers a live, I think they call it VM protection through their Snapshot, I think it's called. That isn't an actual backup solution, right? It's just simply for protection of virtual machines should you lose them. So you don't get virtual machine recovery, you don't get standard rollback, you don't get file recovery, you can't schedule it, right? You don't get replication with that, you can't get retention. So it's more of an add-on. It's not an actual backup tool, right? Our company provides a backup product. Our development is focused on providing backup recovery and replication, right? So you get all of the requirements when it comes to backup recovery and replication. That would be a key difference if you're just using snapshots to protect your virtual environment.
Makes sense. There's perks to snapshots, but backup is not one of them. How can you recover your data if the VBA is lost for any reason?
Right. That was one thing I shared with the tools, allowing you to export the settings, and also, the fact that they're throwaway or disposable. The VBAs are resilient. You just simply reattach them to a target. You'll see all the backup data in it, allow you to recover from that data, or also continue with the backups without having to require you to do another full, for example, if you have to. The software is very resilient in that sense. VBAs are the heart, but they're not a single point of failure should you lose them in the environment. And there's no hard link between them and your target. Again, for the CloudHook, let's say you have the software deployed for 2 months and something happened to your appliance that was going to the cloud. Just simply spin up a new appliance, put in your cloud credentials, protect everything, and you're good to go. You can just get it up and running quickly without having to worry about an appliance. If it goes down, I can't recover my data. That's not the case at all.
Sounds good. Guys, we have a couple more questions left. So after that, we'll just call this a webinar. So now's your time to ask, or forever hold your peace, or until the next podcast or webinar. And of course, you guys do webinars quite often, don't you, James?
Yes, we do. We typically will at least have one a week, and we have webinars around the backup, just giving you a demo of it. We also do special topic webinars around disaster recovery, cloud, for example, today. We also do the webinars on monitoring. One I did a month ago, we did a joint webinar with Citrix. So we're definitely actively involved with getting our software out there and allowing people to see and view the value of it.
You bet. And this is one of my questions. I usually save it to last, but it goes with what we're talking about, is if somebody wants to learn more, they want to maybe join one of these webinars or dive in deeper, or maybe they have a question for, that they don't think of now and they think of later, or they're watching the recorded version and they want to get a question answered. What do they need to do?
Right. So, obviously, you go to our website for information. There's also a chat field, so if you want to chat up one of our reps to ask some questions, you can do so. Again, I'm one of the technical resources, so I'm not always available up front, but if it does require that type of interaction, I can get involved if needed. A lot of, we have documentation on our website, we have community forums, we have a knowledge base. We do have even videos of the installation, the config, recovery on our website too. So we have a wealth of information on the website that allows you to get a good idea of the software. And we definitely have a number of means for you to get more information around the software and what it does.
Perfect. And then also definitely visit DABCC.com. We have a page dedicated to the PhD Virtual and not just their backup and recovery solutions, but also their monitoring solutions. So it's a great place to find a lot of PhD information, not just that they create, but that we find throughout the industry. So there's articles and papers and videos and podcasts and all this stuff that we aggregate from across the ecosystem. So it's a really nice centralized location to find info about PhD Virtual and or anybody, really. So, okay, a couple more questions. As we were chatting, they kept coming in. So we have a couple more. Can you throttle the rate of data? Can you throttle the rate that data is backed up to the cloud? Is it possible to overwhelm the pipe?
It's a really good question, and yes, it is possible to overwhelm the pipe. Again, now we're exposing ourselves to the internet pipe, which I've worked with some customers, isn't that robust, I would say. What we allow you to do is we have a concept known as streams. Let me jump to the demo real quick. So, in streams, a stream equals a virtual disk, right? So a stream could be doing a backup operation, restore, or replication. Now, let's say you have, see this BB has 4 streams. That means it could be pushing 4 virtual machine or BMBK files at once for VMware. Let's say those 4 streams are sucking up my pipe. What I can do is just reduce that down to 1. What that would mean is we'd only process 1 BMBK file at a time. Right? Now, again, after you can seed the data if you wanted to. With our next version, 6.3, we're going to actually allow you to seed locally with archiving. But important to remember that first pass probably is going to take quite a bit of time to get everything up in there. After that seed's in there, we're just simply going to update with incremental changes. Now, if you don't have a lot of change rate, that data could be pretty little. And that data will be compressed as it goes across the network and to the actual cloud provider. So it's pretty efficient from that standpoint.
Perfect. Along the same lines, would that one upload stream run at about 4x the speed of 4 streams?
So, good question.
That is a good question.
Think about that for a second. Essentially, so it depends too on the BMBK file itself. So, we don't worry about white space. So it depends at what point we come across actual data that needs to be written. Now, with that data we do find, we also need to remember that we're also doing unification. So the data we do come across may already be in the backup store. Right? So all these factors kind of count into how much data gets pushed, what the speeds are. So it's one of those things that really depends where we are in the backup, what data we're coming across, what's already in the backup store that will dictate. But generally speaking, it probably should be about a core if you do drop it down. Right?
That makes sense. Okay, the next question is about recording of the webinar. Yes, we do. The actual question here is, I'll read it. Are these webinars recorded anywhere if I happen to miss it? The DABCC webinars, we always record these things. Sometimes we do have technical problems, unfortunately, but we always record them. And if we have problems, we re-record them. So they're all up on DABCC.com within the webinars tab up on the top of the site. And with the videos tab, too, you'll find a bunch of webinars in there. You can search on and to click on someone like PhD Virtual and see all their different webinars that we have on the site. Some of those are, again, from us that we've recorded, like this one, but also some of that PhD's recorded. So it's a good place to find these. And of course, head over to phdvirtual.com and they'll have tons of webinars and videos and all sorts of media that you can watch. But absolutely, I'm recording this right now. As soon as we stop it, the first thing I do is save it, export it, make sure everything's fine and dandy, and then we get that out to you within a couple days. So absolutely. So share them with friends. Next question, is there a way to automatically test backup jobs?
So we offer backup verification in the actual backup wizard, which you can turn on if you want. What we'll do is we'll verify all the blocks of data as we write them against the source. Yes, we can do it automatically. As I mentioned, too, with instant VM recovery for VMware, is also a way you can do backup verification. So if you want to boot up a VM automatically, every now and then to test your backups, you can do it that way. So we can do it automatically with the verify option in the actual backup, or you can do it manually with the instant VM recovery. You have two options how you can test your backups.
Great. Okay, 2 more questions. I said that a while ago, didn't I? So, what's the difference between rollback recovery and instant VM recovery?
So rollback is a situation where we are recovering data. Now, that will be longer than instant. So rollback is a situation where we're just applying incremental changes given what's changed since the last backup. Instant is a matter of we're not recovering data. We're just simply allowing VMware to mount the actual backup data in a format it understands to power the VM up, making it available instantly, right? So that's really the two big differences. Not only instant allows you to reduce the recovery time of a VM that might have been lost in production.
Perfect. And then the last question I have is it is the last question. So guys, if you have any more, ask them now, or we will end after this question. Can you recover individual emails? I love that question.
Right. So if you recall in the recovery wizard or file recovery, there's an iSCSI option that you can then present to Exchange Server, for example. That presents to Exchange native files, EDP, log files. You can use native tools for Exchange recovery, the Exchange Management Shell or Management Console to do that. We also have or resell a product called DABCCcom. They have a purpose-built Exchange recovery tool that provides recovery through a GUI. It's a pretty robust piece of software that allows you to search the backups. You can even drag and drop from backup to production if you want to recover an email. So if Exchange recovery is important to you, we do offer an option with the Elucidate option in DABCCcom for Exchange recovery.
Perfect. Hey, James, thank you so much for taking the time to do this with us. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And like I said at the beginning of the webinar, my favorite part about these is I'm an attendee also. So thank you for taking the time. And before I just close the show off, I'll sort of give you the last word.
Again, thanks, Doug, for having me. Anytime we can share what we're doing here at PhD Virtual, it's always a plus for us. Again, with CloudHook, like I said, it may not be for everybody, but it's a nice option if you're trying to get away from tape. If you don't have a DR site, DR site's expensive to manage naturally. But we're also going to be expanding CloudHook to also include archive to the cloud here later on this year, so keep an ear out for that. And like I said, with the acquisition earlier this week with Virtual Sharp, that's also some exciting news, which adds some additional functionality to our DR message. Stay tuned for what we'll be doing at PhD Virtual. We have a lot of exciting things coming out here down the road in the next year or so.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I believe we're going to do another podcast or webinar. I always call them podcasts because I do more podcasts than anything else. But we're going to do another webinar with you guys in the future too. I love doing them, and this is great stuff. So, guys, thanks so much for attending this webinar. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said earlier, head on over to DABCC.com for all the latest, greatest virtualization and news and support resources. Yeah. Oh my. And also definitely head over to phdvirtual.com and find all this great stuff. Download their demo or their eval copy and then play around with it. I think you guys will thoroughly enjoy that. And if you have any more questions, please feel forward to reach out to them or me, and I can always get you answers to almost any question you will ever ask, or at least I try. So on that note, thanks everyone for listening to this DABCC Live episode. If you enjoyed it, share it with a friend. And until next time, thanks everybody.